Previously, novels such as The Great Gatsby and movies such as The Godfather were used to keep the American dream alive. More recently, however, propaganda has been segmented into two types of fairy tales. The first is surreal and nonsensical. Hollywood movies aim to distract and demoralize by giving high-level fantasy. At the same time, we also have low-level fantasy or fairy tales, which appear to be more real, offered by the news media. Stories such as Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Bezos, Buffett, Elon Musk, people like these. Whether you're watching a movie or watching the news, you are nevertheless watching a fairy tale. And the fairy tale is this, that it is possible to start a successful business from nothing, and that anyone can make it. This is simply not true. What people need to understand is that what is crucial in preventing political revolution and mass revolt is not the police or the army. What is most crucial is to tell everyone a story, using sponsored actors to keep everyone chasing a dream. People ought to know the truth, that Gates, Jobs, Bezos, Buffett, Musk, Zuckerberg, most of these so-called entrepreneurs have in fact been born into privilege, having the details of their history changed of course, and preened from early to be actors. They are merely frontmen for large blocks of investors, including government agencies who need to add a human face for the public mythology to function. The real agencies and organizations behind the scenes control virtually every decision and aspect of management, and use these actors simply as a mouth to give face to decisions by the military-industrial complex made at higher levels. Fair competition and entry into the open market is now, and has been for a long time, completely impossible. Any truly self-made man nowadays is not what you would call rich, but is merely someone who moves credit around. Once taxes, interest, amortization, depreciation expenses, salaries to workers, legal fees, and whatever else is paid, there is absolutely nothing left for the average entrepreneur. And if by some mark of genius he is still able to break even, after the scales have been weighted firmly against him, he is now forced by prudent necessity to either auction his business publicly, hence giving over control to investment banks and institutional investors, or at very least sell a controlling share to an already established corporation through private equity. There is no such thing as successful entrepreneurship in the 21st century. You can become a founder of a company, yes, you can be a startup CEO, but long before the point where your company becomes profitable, it will be taken from you and placed in the hands of old money. Crucially then, old money and its media must continue to propagate these news and advertising fairy tales to keep you paying your taxes, continue stealing your intellectual property, and prevent organized revolt. So do you really want to be a boss? Let's take Amazon for example. Do you understand that retail investors only account for a fraction of the stock market, and that the movement of stock prices is controlled fundamentally by blocks of investors? It's only after block investors have decided whom to capitalize that Tom, Dick and Harry will then invest their measly $100 in a stock, the future of which is known to the elite, but still a casino to the working man. In this respect, people invested in Amazon because the price kept going up, and it kept going up because organizations behind the scenes, which were too big to suffer loss, had the means to keep pumping money and inflating the price. Anyone who believes that Amazon stock simply went up due to the intrinsic value of the company is part of the public mythology and news fantasy. You could start an online website 10 times more innovative than Amazon, but if you don't have the logistical relationships and secret agreements to invest that Amazon did, you will never make a profit, ever. Consider further Elon Musk. In a radio interview with Joe Rogan, who for the record is another Satanist, Rogan asked Elon Musk how he has time to be a CEO while continue making various inventions among other things, to which Musk cleverly and in his typically shrewd yet aloof manner evaded the question but simply replied that he spends most of his time on problems of mechanical, electrical, aeronautic engineering, to which Rogan then appended that he must in some sense be superhuman. But let me assure you that Elon Musk is very human, and that no human intelligent or otherwise is capable of accepting a company management position, while at the same time, or for that matter, spending most of their time with abstract engineering problems which professors with PhDs would find difficult enough to deal with. His phony biography, just like Obama's phony biography, tries to paint him as some kind of scientific cultivated genius. And yet if we listen closely to his discussions in the media, they lack any of the substantive scientific details and furnishings which one would expect of a supposed genius. In another video, I discuss the psychology of how very often narcissistic conmen portray themselves as having dropped out of university in order to convince us that they are PhD material or whatever, but which also explains at the same time their lack of certification, so they can say, oh, I was admitted to this university, I was on a PhD course, I was on a law course, medicine course, whatever, but sorry, I don't have a certificate to prove it because I dropped out. Yes, I'm genius, I'm so genius, I didn't need to complete the course, I just dropped out because I can know things without learning things. Magic, right? Do we really believe this protected actor's background, that he enrolled on a PhD program at Stanford and dropped out after just 2 days? Has anybody with common sense ever heard of anything as ridiculous in their lives? Just pause and think about that for a moment. I enrolled on a PhD program at Stanford and then dropped out after 2 days. You need to be pretty damn certain that your business was going to be successful, if that is, you ever enrolled at all. And of course Musk knew he was going to be successful. Why did you think that his new program was named SpaceX? Did he just love the letter X? Or is this quite a lazy and obvious signature that, like all X-related corporations and businesses, flaunt their symbol everywhere? This is an entirely Masonic operation, only with this fake genius and actor as the front man. Yet another Steve Jobs, who was equally non-genius and unexceptional in his status as an actor in the American fairy tale.